Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Doherty. I'm the User Experience and Immersive Technologist for the Digital Twin Centre based in Belfast. And I'm going to take maybe 20 minutes or maybe slightly less to take you through an introduction to digital twins and immersive tech and sort of where they fit together. So this is assuming no knowledge. I'm going to start from the start and work us through, and we'll see where we get to. So briefly, I'm not going to talk through all these slides because Sue gave us a good overview, but the Digital Twin Centre based in Belfast, our entire reason to exist is to increase adoption of digital twins. Here's some figures associated with that if you want to have a look. I'm not going to read through them. And we kind of sit in, I guess, part of this ecosystem around providing lab facilities, different experts. So my area is immersive, but we have members of the team that are for artificial intelligence and cybersecurity and data integration and things like that, as well as then working with our partners in industry, SMEs, and I guess different research and academia groups. We have 3 industry partners that are involved in the event, so Artemis, Thales, and Spirit Aerosystems, each of them working on their own digital twin approaches. So that's enough of that. Let's get into what is a digital twin. So the definition that we kind of go for, there's lots out there, but we go for this one that says a digital twin is a synchronized dynamic virtual representation of a physical asset, process, or system, bridging the physical and digital worlds. So what does that really mean? So if you imagine if you have a wind turbine, like the one outside today, so that turbine sitting there, it's your physical asset. You attach a number of sensors to it. So you're looking at, say, weather, you're looking at strain upon the propellers, collecting data using your sensors or your IoT devices or manual inputs. And then that's sending data continuously back to your then digital twin, which is sitting somewhere in a system and giving you an accurate reflection of the current state and the environment that's attached to that. A little bit of, I guess, a look at the journey here. So listening today, it was really, really interesting. There's a number of companies I think are already on this journey from what I've heard today that might not realize it. Digital twins kind of become a word without a meaning. It could mean many different things, but maybe let me talk you through this to give you a bit of an idea. So if you have your wind turbine or your room or whatever it might be in the physical world, your physical domain, and you have a 3D scan of that or a model of static data of that, in your virtual domain, we call that a digital model. So that would be like scanning a room or taking a CAD model, and there's no connection between the two of them at all. It's completely static. You're getting no data into that. Next, we have our wind turbine, say if it is, with our sensors sending data back into our virtual domain. So our CAD model, maybe it's a dashboard. We call that a digital shadow. So much like yourself or my shadow, you see that when I move, my shadow moves, I'm getting a bit of a representation of what's going on with the physical asset itself, but you couldn't reach out and move the arm of my shadow and move my arm. That'd be a bit weird. That would take us then to our digital twin, where the example with our wind turbine, we have our wind turbine asset, it's connected with our different sensors, and then say that we're looking at, I don't know, we have a weather front coming in, there's a storm, we want to look at, can our turbine actually handle this? So we model that using our digital twin, and then send back a command to say, okay, throttle yourself, don't go above a certain number of rotations per minute. And that there is really the stage that you want to get to, is this sort of bi-directional flow of data coming in, monitoring what you're doing, and then being able to take action upon that. A bit of myth busting. So it's just a 3D model. So think of a 3D model as a bit like a photograph. It's static, it's a moment in time. Whereas a digital twin is a bit more like a video that you could also drag past the end of the timeline into the future using simulation for based on real-time or historical data. Only large companies can use them. So this isn't really true anymore. This is changing. It's something that we're working on changing. So start small, scale fast. So thanks to a lot of the cloud platforms that are out there, you've access to quite a lot of power quite quickly. There is a cost associated, but you can work through that, as well as affordable sensors and sort of user-friendly analytics tools. Digital twins are becoming increasingly accessible. It's just another dashboard. A dashboard might be part of your digital twin. It might be part of your user experience, but the digital twin is more like an active model that shows you how something's working, why it's working, and what might happen next. So this is where you're then applying things like machine learning and artificial intelligence to the data coming off your model. And then finally, it's only for physical products. This isn't true anymore either. So digital twins are now being used for services, processes, and even people. I was chatting with a company that makes immersive experiences the other day, and they were asked to do a proof of concept around a digital twin of an audit pipeline. So what might the audit pipeline of the future look like for one of the big four sort of consulting companies, which I thought was a really interesting area to start looking at. And then why use a digital twin? So these are being increasingly adopted. These have existed for years already, but typically they're used for rapid prototyping, so getting feedback quicker and being able to make changes and see them in a simulated environment. You've real-world control mechanisms, so familiar control of what's going on. Data pipelines enabling businesses to make smarter decisions. That's existed for years with IoT, but it is a benefit of digital twins as well. Shortening your time to market, so being able to run simulations on designs up front and getting, I guess, that profile loaded into whatever your manufacturing machine might be, or your end users' opinions of what it might look like. You're able to get there quicker, reducing costs, and then lowering emissions. And we sort of see these four technology barriers. I'm not going to talk through each of the key parts in there, but feel free to take a picture. So cost, first of all, it's a high barrier to entry, high initial investments with some of this. The technology, it's quite a diverse technology set involved. And again, work is happening to bring this down. Interoperability is probably one of the bigger parts. So you design a solution, you create a digital twin of your operation, whatever it might be, and then you want to add something to it 5 years down the line, or then you want to extend it and interact with another piece of software. This is really, really, really interesting and difficult, I think. And then finally, security and trustworthiness. You're digitizing your processes, you're digitizing your products. There's a new barrier there. And so there's work going on at the minute to try and cover these, but just so you're aware up front. Cool, now some cool examples of immersive tech. So these are, I guess, examples of immersive technology combined with digital twins and digital twin technology. So to give you a bit of an idea of what this might look like. So we talk about these design phase digital twins, so that bit before I mentioned about rapid prototyping. So being able to quickly bring in real world data into your design process up front. You can gather your feedback earlier. Here's some examples just from some products that are out there. So this is an example from Siemens, their NX designer software, where they're building a camera is the example that they show, where you can interact with it in a headset and see your sort of iteration. And then this other one, I think I was speaking with someone about this earlier, is a company called World Builder, and they do simulations of location-based entertainment. So things like Disney World, theme parks, things like that. So what they're doing is they're running these simulations around, light modeling sentiment around the individuals walking through. I think this is really, really interesting and worth a look. The other big one, this is kind of the most widely adopted, are training scenarios. So we've seen a lot of these today. It's a really great way of getting people involved. It really brings everything to life. It's embodied. And typically asset capture is becoming much simpler as well. It's a challenge, but it is becoming easier. And it's kind of a process that you go through anyway as part of creating your digital twins. Two great examples recently I've seen around this are the Vario XR technology headsets have been approved as part of a flight simulator that can be used for getting civilian flight hours. So that requirement for you to get your civilian pilot's license of covering a number of hours, you can actually do a number of those hours in a flight simulator, and it's completely allowed. And another one, I really like this one, is a company from Finland that are training students around like sustainable forestry. So what they did is they took a 3D scan of a landscape with forests and things in it, and then loaded that into these simulator environments, and then had students go through these training simulations with it. So when they actually went out to work in these forest lands, they were able to apply it in a sustainable way. Contextualizing data, so this is a bit like a dashboard, but it's more in situ. This is a quick prototype that we threw together. We were experimenting with how could we capture a room and an asset that we have. If anyone came to our stand, you've maybe seen this in the headset with the fully textured asset. But this was kind of a rapid exploration of how can we drop data into a location, control something that's digitally enabled on the other side, and create this sort of digital twin interface using this. So this is an educational manufacturing rig that was in our London office that was part of a different project. And we were interested, can we pull energy data off this and display it, and then start to look at controlling it from our side. A really interesting part of digital twins is this what if question. So, how would you improve efficiency in a production line by maybe, changing the location of a certain piece of equipment? Or my example from earlier, how would a weather turbine respond? This is interesting because you need your data layer already. You need to be getting your data in, and then you need to be able to run and train models on that. But this is, I think, a very, very powerful part of like digital twins overall. This is an example from, I think it's Keon and Accenture using NVIDIA Omniverse, looking at multi-agent robot fleets, so training robot fleets within a factory. And then finally, storytelling. So I think this is a really powerful part of immersive technology, and it's something that we're seeing a lot of in the creative industry. We're quite interested in what's going on in the creative industry because there's a lot of this technology already in use, and we're trying to see where we get that kind of spillover. So how do you tell a story that is maybe hidden away within part of a manufacturing process or part of any sort of process at all, like our example here where we're trying to take you across our different locations. Immersive is a really great way of bringing that to life. If you want to have a go at this, we have it on our stand. Give me a shout. I can take you through it. And then finally, this little section, I guess, on what's next for immersive and what are we paying attention to. So within digital twins, if you think about it, if you take a single digital twin, like a wind turbine, and it's modeled itself, so you have all the data that you need to have about it, it's all sort of put together there. What happens when you start connecting that with other turbines, and then you connect that with something like the crew transfer vessel that Sue was talking about, our partners Artemis working with, and connect that then with weather data coming in from weather buoys, suddenly you have this really complex system of systems that has a lot going on. This is an example here that I'm showing you is a tool that we're working on in the center that's looking at how do we model this and how do we make this actually usable by somebody to query something like this. We feel that immersive tech has a role to play within this. This huge amount of data that moves beyond a single static screen into the environment around you that you can query. And the next part that I think's, again, another really interesting bit of this is immersive analytics. So kind of like, how do you get to the Power BI of the immersive world? What's a useful way of looking at this? And there's some really great work going on in this at the minute that's changing the thinking around user experience. So this is an example from David Zhang around borrowing from architecture. So the sort of language of architectures and architects around building spaces, and then applying that to XR and sort of immersive tech as a way of creating these sort of intimate or non-intimate spaces, affordances, I guess, for interacting in a headset. And then this is an example of a sort of general analysis of challenges around different immersive analytics tools that are out there. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting area at the minute because it's an entirely different way of interacting potentially with your data. And then finally, new territory and interesting signals. So this is some stuff that we're sort of keeping an eye on. So it's really developer friendly at the minute to get started in this. You buy maybe a consumer headset currently, like maybe the Meta Quest 3 or something like that. You get something spun up in Unity very quickly. There's a lot of tools out there that can get you going quite quick. Or the example we saw earlier about web AR. If you already are working in web development, it's quite quick to get going with some of this. So it's quite, you can get a POC, get feedback, and see how it lands far quicker. Android XR, Samsung just recently released this in the US. They'd announced it a while ago. This is kind of an entirely new entrant into this market at the minute. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, very much so, because it's new hardware that's competing in a market. Gaussian splatting, so this is really just a way of getting quicker asset captures using like point clouds. But that example I showed you previously or if you use the headset where we had to have someone model out the individual experience, you can get there far, far quicker using this technology, and the pipelines are still, like the way you actually do that is still really developing, so it'll be there quite quick. And then finally, this bit, which I haven't really touched on, but I think it's right around the corner, is this combination of immersive tech with AI. So not actually, in my case, interacting with a digital twin that's run a machine learning algorithm to predict what's next, but actually using AI as part of the user experience. So this context-aware computing, I think it's called ambient computing that people talk about. I think that's the bit that I'm most excited about, I think, because I think there's great potential there for a change in how we interact with things. So if you have any questions and you're feeling shy at the minute, or you just want to chat, we're based in Belfast, just up the road. There's some of our team members about as well, if you want to just have a chat about what we do, either in the Digital Twin Center or as part of Digital Catapult. We're also on a stand outside. You can find us on LinkedIn. Feel free to give us a shout, but thank you very much for your attention.